Everybody, welcome to One Set. Oh my god.
Yeah. Friggin' Phillies lost. Snooze fest.
They
But the
lost.
Brewers,
Yeah, they lost the other night.
they lost tonight
Was
too.
it Sunday? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they won the first two. Jesus. They won the first two games against the Braves, and they lost the second two. And they lost the first game against the Chicago Cubs like an hour ago. I was like, way to go, guys. But Milwaukee's in the hunt, and they also lost. So,
my dad has been saying, like, he's like, it really depends. I mean, if the Phillies are trying to stay in the hunt, as long as they keep kind of doing what they're doing, I mean, but as long it's like it really depends on them and then what the Brewers and I think the Astros, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Brewers and somebody else. It really depends on how they do as well, on how Philly can get into the playoffs in that last spot. So Philly can still have like a mediocre, because I think they only have they played since then 2 or 3 games. So they're down to their last 10.
let me see. It's two more games. It's 2 games against the Cubs, and then it's 3 games against the Nationals, and then 3 games against Houston.
Yeah. So definitely
It-
less than 10. So depending on how, I think, and I looked at the schedule, like they're playing every day for these next 2 weeks, I think. That's crushing. Like,
it's the next 8 games.
yeah.
It's the next 8 games and they're away.
So they're done with home games.
Yeah.
So they're away for the rest of the season then.
Yep.
Okay.
Hold on, because the schedule that I have on it's like my home screen is just the Philly schedule, so that I can like just quickly always look. But okay, so geez, this is abysmal. Okay, they play in Chicago tomorrow and Thursday, and then they're in DC Friday, DC Saturday for 2 games on Saturday. Jesus, okay. And then
That's right.
a game on Sunday.
You had a doubleheader, right?
Yeah, doubleheader on Saturday, and then they're in DC on Sunday, but then they're in Houston Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, so last 8 games, they gotta at least be above 500, hopefully.
Yeah, well, it's 9 more games, but Milwaukee has to lose like 6 more games in order to be out, I think is what it is. They're only a game and a half behind us. Like, I definitely think that there's a chance that Milwaukee's going to like slide in and push us out at some point, but that doesn't mean that it'll stay like that.
Right.
I think it might do this little teeter-totter flipsy thing.
Yeah, it'll probably come down to the last like maybe 2 games for each of the teams. Yeah. From what I'm thinking, depending on how the Phillies do. I mean, if they can hold out, it could come down to like the last couple games of the season.
Well, they need. I mean, the Astros, like Houston, is one of the best teams in baseball. Like they're the top team in the American League. Only second to the LA Dodgers. They're sitting on 101 and 53. Like, having to play them our last 3 games, it's like you can't lose to Chicago or the Nationals. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
You got to win these next 6 games, and then if you lose all 3 of the Houston games, we should be okay by then. But that also depends on the Brewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
they play the Cardinals again tomorrow. So hopefully, the Cardinals can beat the Brewers. And then, see, what I don't like is that the Brewers are at home for the rest of their games, and we're away for all of our remaining games.
That's yeah. Yeah. Um Brewers and who was the other team? Not the Astros, and who else was it?
What do you mean?
The
Like
other
that that we're
two other teams that we
like,
have to look out for.
well, the Padres are 2 games ahead of us, so it kind of matters.
Yeah.
If they keep losing, then they'll slide underneath
Right.
Philadelphia. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, this is I mean for like non non sports or non fans of sports, people that are trying to get into sports in this type of time, this is when it's interesting because you at least have something that you're looking forward to. Like, okay, they got to win these games, or if somebody loses, then this person gets into that. You know, during the season, depending on it, like if people just go to a game and they win, okay, cool. Or if they lose, all right. But if you're trying to get somebody into a sport, this is the type of situation you would want to try to like introduce somebody in, because then you can say, okay, well, they gotta, like, they're in this position where they can get into the playoffs, they got to start winning these games, they can't lose too many, but we're also looking at these other 2 teams, so they got to, depending on their wins and losses, it's going to affect us as well. So for the
Right.
non sports type of fan, this is a great time to kind of try to get into something, like any type of sport, like in that way. Like when
Yeah.
we get down to the last like 2-3 weeks of the NFL, there's a lot of teams that are like fighting for that wild card spot, and teams that are trying to clinch for the playoffs and stuff. So
Yeah. They're in the hunt. You know,
exactly.
and and that's when I feel like everybody plays their best. Like in these last 2 to 3 weeks leading into the postseason, like you just said. And
Yeah.
football is like, because they only play once a week, really. Um,
Yeah.
I guess the only time that they'll play twice is if they play like a Sunday game and then they play Thursday. So they
Yeah.
are
Quick
like,
turnaround.
that's
Yeah.
right. But
But then if they do that, then they almost have like a week off in a way, like almost a week and a half, because then they'll probably won't play until that next Sunday or Thursday. So it's
the
almost like
following Sunday
it's
or even
good to kind
Monday,
of
yeah,
have that full week off, but then it gives an advantage for them, but not an advantage for their opponent, because they're coming in a lot more fresher than their opponent. So
right.
it's
Well,
kind
the
of a,
dis- the
you
dis-
know,
the disadvantage is them having to play twice within 5 days, right? So when
right,
they play Sunday and then again Thursday, but
right.
yeah, I
But can we
mean,
talk about the Birds being
we,
3-0?
that's right. We totally can.
I
Um,
was talking to my dad about it and saying, like, I don't remember the last time we were 3-0 this early in the season. Even in our championship season, we were 2-1. We won the first game, we lost the second, and then that's when we went on that 10-game winning streak. But I think you and or my dad looked it up, and I think it was the 2016 season, the year before the championship season, we went 3-0,
mm,
which I don't remember.
yeah, it was 2016, because I googled the last time Eagles were starting 3-0, and actually the Miami Dolphins are the only other team that are sitting at 3-0 right now. So
Yes. Because the
I
Giants, the
don't.
New York Giants, were also in that undefeated spot too, but then they just lost to the Cowgirls this past
Mhm.
Monday. Which, I mean, I didn't really get to watch it, but I heard it wasn't that great of an entertaining type of game. I think they didn't really score a touch. Neither team scored a touchdown until the second half. So it was just field goals for the first half. So, I mean, it could have been a good
Right.
defensive game in that aspect, but uh, for a entertainment factor. I guess it didn't seem as entertaining for a Monday Night Football game. But again, 3-0 for the Birds. I mean, that's saying something. It's definitely putting a putting a word out to everybody saying, we're
Well,
legit this
and
year.
yeah, I mean, we do have an easier schedule, right? Like we've talked about this. Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
it does definitely
the
benefit them.
the Dolphins beat the Patriots 20-7 in their first game, and then they beat the Ravens 42-38 their second game, and then they beat Buffalo Bills 21-19. So their first win over the Patriots was like not close, but the Ravens and the Bills game, I mean, you're talking within 4 and 2 points apiece.
Yeah, yeah, and
So,
the Bills are going to be a definite contender this year. So that, I mean, even though I think they're 2-1. Most of the teams right now are 2-1. Um, but the Bills are
I
definitely
mean,
going to be great. And you're
the
watching the
Bills are,
Bills, and their games are amazing.
yeah, the Bills are 2-1. The Chiefs and the Broncos are 2-1. The Browns and the Ravens are 2-1, and the Jaguars are 2-1. Surprisingly, in the American League, and then in the National League, you have the Cowboys and Giants at 2-1. You got the Rams at 2-1. Vikings, Packers, and Bears are all 2-1, and then the Bucks are at 2-1. So like it's, I think after next week, it's gonna definitely take a little bit more shit. And when I say next week, I mean this airs Friday. I mean if
Yeah,
this is going in post or whatever, but um, yeah, I mean week 4, um, I think numbers are going to start to look a lot more interesting. We'll see
right.
um, if the Dolphins and Birds can hold on to the undefeated streak. I mean, they're the only 2 teams right now that are undefeated. I mean, and usually you hear of like a handful of teams that go undefeated until like week 5 or 6, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
so for only being week 3 and there's only 2 teams, the Eagles are one of them, and then the Dolphins are the other one. So I mean, we'll
Trying to
see. I
look up
mean, what?
the Dolphins' next game. Who are they playing? They are playing okay, so wait, they are playing the Bengals Thursday. So they have the Thursday night game. So they're playing Thursday
All
this
right,
week. So by the
Joe
time
Burrow,
this
right?
airs, this is going to be most likely coming out this coming Friday. So this game will already be taking place. So at this time, will already know if they win or lose. But they're
Right.
playing in Cincinnati, so that should be
Okay.
good. But because I think the Bengals are coming off, I think they lost their first 2 games, and I think they just won their first game of the season, so they're coming off of
They're
a win.
yeah, they just won their first game, but they're only sitting at 1-2 right now. So like,
Yeah,
I mean, they're home, which is good. But if the Dolphins, are sitting at 3-0, um, and like I said, the Dolphins they played the Patriots, they played the Ravens, and they played the Bills. So not exactly bad teams. But the last 2 games they just barely squeezed out the wins. So I mean,
right.
like Dom in Fast and Furious said, winning's winning, right?
Hmm. Whether you win by
So,
an inch or a mile, winning's winning.
hmm
But yeah,
so
so we got the Jags this Sunday, and we're at home. So I mean, they're coming off of a 2-game win streak. So they're coming in
right,
strong, but I mean, I think we got the better team right now. But I think the highest thing coming into it is because Doug Peterson's coming home for the first time. And then, so that'll be and everybody was saying, do you think he's going to get a warm welcoming in Philly? I think so. I mean, he won us a championship. If you boo that man, then I mean, Philly fans are known to be relentless and pretty
Philly,
crazy, but you
yeah,
know, I think we Doug will get a pretty good welcoming when he comes into the stadium. I mean
we
that's
shall
facts.
see. We shall see.
We shall
I
see.
mean, Philly,
Depending
right? So
depending if we lose really bad, if we kick the bucket really bad, then yeah, I mean, I think Doug might get a little bit of a harsh ending to it, but you know, I think he'll definitely get some cheers out of the announcement for him.
yeah, I mean, like the Jags lost their first game to the Commanders,
Yes.
28-22. But then they beat the Colts 24-0. Wow. And
Yeah.
then they beat the Chargers 38-10. Um, the Jag game was at home. The Chargers game was um, away. So, I mean, I thought I just wrote the Jags off like, they're going to be
Whoopsie.
right,
Hmm.
um, because they haven't been great in like recent years. So, um, I don't know. I mean, my buddy said, Doug Peterson, you know, tag teaming with Trevor Lawrence, could be scary. Like we'll see.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think it'll be a fun game. I thought it was going to be like a squash match, but now it actually seems like it could be
Yeah.
a fun game to watch.
I mean, knowing that we're 3-0, now it's getting to the point where like, okay, you're going to get a loss in here eventually. We would like to hope that they continue to go on a winning streak, but they're going to eventually, get a loss. So it's going to be like, okay, who's going to be that, first loss? And, you know, home games are always better because, they definitely were feeling the crowd on the second home the second game, which was the home game. Or no, sorry, they no, yeah, it was the second game. uh yeah, that crowd was definitely amping them up, and that's what definitely helped them pull out that win
Right.
in the second game. But yeah, so Philly's going to be definitely living it up on this coming Sunday for the Jags game, so that'll definitely help them. But then the next week they have the Cardinals. I think that's going to be the game that's going to be the deciding factor of how good they really are at this point. I mean, I mean, I think the last couple games, I think they're 2-1 right now as well.
They
So
are
they've
one
been
and two.
1-2. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so I'm looking now, and they played the Chiefs in the first game, so it's like, okay, there's a loss.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they they played the Raiders and they beat the Raiders, and then they played the Rams and they lost the Rams. So like they had two really strong teams in the games that they
Yeah.
lost.
Hmm.
So it's kind of tough to say. I mean, they're playing the Panthers next before well, they're playing the Panthers in Carolina, and then they're
Hmm.
hosting us in Arizona. So
Yeah. And the
yeah,
Panthers have been
I
like up and down the last couple years, so it's really hard to kind of see what they've been like.
yeah,
They
I
used to
mean,
be. I mean,
I
they
tend
they used to be a pretty decent team, but I think since their quarterback left, they've been kind of up and down every year.
I mean, I tend to believe that the Cardinals game is going to be like if we go into Arizona 4-0 after beating the Jaguars, like I think that Cardinals game is going to be pretty telling.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
then we host the Cowboys, and then we host the Steelers, which um, yeah, I mean the that game will be fun. I'm planning on
Absolutely.
going to that game. So
Nice.
um,
And is that in Philly or Pittsburgh?
it's Philly. So
Okay. Yeah, that'll be
I
nice.
mean it's Cheyenne's team is the
Right.
Steelers, but she's when she started watching the Steelers, like was when like Big Ben just got started. So obviously this
Yeah.
whole season is really heartbreaking for her because he's no longer with them, kind of thing.
Yeah, first
Um,
season without Big Ben. It's definitely
yeah,
definitely tough. It's kind of, I mean, I think it was like same thing with the Saints, the first year, which was last year, uh without
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it's like, a hole that's like in there that's like not filled. It's different without their, franchise player. So
Their main bro, right?
the main
Yeah.
bro.
Bro. um, yeah, the Steelers, their one win was their first game against the Bengals, which they won in overtime, and then they lost to
Yes.
the Patriots and they lost to the Browns. So, I mean, they're playing the Jets next, so it's kind of like
They
if you
should
can't
win
beat
that,
the Jet,
hopefully.
if you can't beat the Jets, like
Right.
y'all gotta get. And I know they
They
were trying to figure out like who, like their quarterback situation. I think I heard Trubisky's out, like he's not starting for them anymore.
already? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, they have what's his name, Kelly, I think.
Yeah, I forget who the backup was, but yeah, Trubisky has been. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, he's on the Steelers now. I'm like, let's see how many weeks he lasts. It's like, all right, 3 weeks, all right,
Oh,
and you're
it's
out.
it's Kenny Pickett. I think he's the guy that's in now.
Gotcha.
Or wait, no, that's September 6th. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they. I'm pretty sure that they are putting or pulling Trubisky and putting Kenny in. But again, it's kind of like
Hmm.
you got big shoes to fill now that Big Ben's gone, and Mike Tomlin's just trying to like make the most of the situation, and he's just like, I don't have like a solid QB to go with right now.
Right, right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
I know I had my reservations about like Jalen Hurts up until like pretty much now, right? Um,
Yeah,
but he's showed up pretty good in the first 3 games, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
he's putting up some great numbers in these last 3 games, and I was watching or listening in the car. WIP
97.5, right?
94.1 actually.
Okay, okay.
Uh, I was listening to I usually listen to the Angelo show every morning, and they'll talk to Sirianni after the games. They'll talk to uh, Brandon, the defensive player. I forget his last name right now. Brandon Graham, and they'll usually talk to him after the games. Uh, Mark and Reese in the afternoon when I'm coming back from work. I'll listen to them every once in a while. But they
Mm.
were talking about the fact that, you know, how Carson was playing that last season in 2020, and that's when Jalen Hurts got, put into the game, and they benched Wentz, and the whole thing was like, is Hurts better than Wentz? Is Wentz, kind of just washed up? I think I think that question has been put to rest after that game this past week, because for a quarterback to get sacked 9 times, it uh you know they were saying the fact that with Carson after the game, he was like, yeah, 9 sacks is never good. I got to get better. And they went back and said, he's been saying that every year. I got to get better, and he never gets better. This past year in the summer, Jalen Hurts knew he was coming into his second year as a starter. He's like, there's some things I need to work on, and I'm, planning to get into the, gym and, work on my game on the field and improve. Comes out blaring, and you can tell he's put in the work and he's changed up his game. And the one thing that I noticed in this last game, he didn't run as much. The last 2 games, he was doing a lot of running. He still ran in this last in the Commanders game, but he didn't run as much as he did in the first. He didn't run as much as in the third game as he did in the last 2. So maybe that's something that, and a lot of people are saying like they don't want him to be, hopefully not running too much, because that's going to unfortunately, if you have a QB that's running almost every play, that's risking injury. So maybe he took that into consideration, or maybe somebody, coaches on the team were saying, cut back on your runs because we can't afford to, get you injured, blah blah blah. So, but it showed that he was still able to kind of do the same game and not have him run up and down the field. Because I think the last episode we were talking about that, the fact that he doesn't need to run almost every single play, and he didn't do that, and they were still able to kind of spread around the field, runs, passes, and everything. So he's improving every game. Where Carson just continues to was doing the same thing in the Eagles. Seemed like he was doing the same thing in the Colts. He just sticks so long in that pocket and he doesn't get rid of the ball fast enough. He tries to always think about doing too much, or he's always thinking about trying to make the best play or do something big where, and then all of a sudden, the play's over. So where Hurts just, and, I always thought the fact that, and I know I keep engaging this thing, but I always thought it's, the QB is one thing, but if you have good receivers to throw to, that's going to make yourself more confident. You know, could that be something that Carson just doesn't trust his teammates? I think that was probably one thing that he had, uh, coming for him in the Eagles. Maybe he just didn't trust his teammates to catch the ball, or because we had a couple of people that weren't really catching at the time. Aguilar, but now he's on a team where he's catching. So, uh, but now, Hurts, he has Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, and they're killing it the last two games. So could it be, a QB is only as good as his, people as he's, given the ball to, or is the fact that, hey, I mean, no matter what receivers you have out there, if you're a good QB, you should be able to know what you're doing. So that there's a question maybe we can, talk about. I don't know.
I, I think really it's just to kind of sum up what you're saying here. It's, people got Wentz's number because he do a lot of the same
Whoopsie.
all the time, right? Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts is at least, running the ball, passing the ball, putting the ball in the air, handing it off, and the defenders on the other teams aren't able to digest his next move because he keeps switching it up, which is
Right.
excellent, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's where the credit is for Jalen, is that he's doing really well because he's not doing the same stuff all the time. He's not sitting in the pocket for too long and getting sacked 9 friggin' times in the game, right? Um,
Exactly.
it's like bring it
Whoopsie.
off the pot, right? Like, he,
Exactly.
he- and that was once his thing, was he could never, he'd always sit there and be like, huh, like you said, trying to think too much rather
Right.
than just do, execute, get it done. If you can't find anyone open, run it. Don't just
Hmm.
wait to get sacked. It's
And I think his injury had a big thing to do with it. I
oh,
wholeheartedly think that
totally.
after that injury, it messed up his head, because if you look at those first 10 games or so before he got hurt, he was able to, scramble out of the pocket and get it to the right guy and do this and that. Like I said, he was coming into an MVP season. I mean, there was nothing this dude couldn't do. But after he got that injury, all of that confidence washed away from him. And you can just tell that, not that he's scared, but he's just thinking too much and he can't get that out of his head.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's just, something that he has, modeled into his head that he can't physically get out of him. But, you know, it's unfortunate because before that, I mean, he was looking really good in those first two seasons. And then after that injury, he tried coming back from it and he just was not the same player. And I don't think he's ever gotten back to that level.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's so wild, and I'm sure that this has been talked about to no end about how great that he was going in towards the postseason. He, was likely going to take us to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, he was that good. He was executing on that level, and then he got injured, and Foles went in, and everyone was just like, "Oh my God, we're doomed." And then instead,
Mhm.
BDN shows up, and it's just I don't know if there's any other team that went through like that scenario, right?
Right.
Because we that was our first Super Bowl win, right? Like I don't
That we
yeah
have
that
actually witnessed, yeah.
well that was like the Eagles' first Super Bowl win. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure
y yeah, yeah, you're right, you're
because
right. What
I'm
whoopsie.
thinking the the Phillies won back in '80. So when they won the World Series in 2008, that was like
Right,
their second win. But that was the Eagles' first like Super Bowl
yeah.
victory.
And I'm always thinking the
Um,
Sixers too because they had a couple wins in the '80s as well, so
okay, okay, yeah, I didn't
okay,
even know
good.
the Sixers had. Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
the Julius Erving, era, I think him and, either Julius Erving and the Charles Barkley era. No, Charles Barkley never won a championship, so it was Julius Erving. I think they got 1 or 2 from him. So they haven't won since the '80s. So they're due for 1 too. But once that season kicks in, we can talk a little bit more about that because I think they got a good potential starting line. I just saw their starting lineup for this year, and it's looking pretty good. So as as we get into like the first couple games of the NBA season, I could probably pitch in a little bit of how they're doing with that team.
yeah, I mean, I once the Phillies wrap up, I'm gonna try to tune into um, the Sixers and the Flyers, which I looked up the
Hmm.
Flyers. Um, they won the Stanley Cup back in 1974 1975. So they have two championship wins there. Um, and we can talk more on how, like, I'm not tuned into hockey at all. I know that they're in preseason right now, and I know the Flyers have not been great for the past few years. Um, but yeah, I've gotten so into like if I'm not working, and there's like a baseball game on, I'm like watching that. And once
Hmm.
like this was the first year that I really like dived into the Phillies, even in preseason, and then like from February up until now, I've just been really like tuned in. Like, okay, they're on. Like, and I'm watching.
Right.
I think the Sixers, I'm definitely going to follow like as much as I can. Especially, I got really into them headed towards the postseason last year, and I
Yeah.
and I got to really enjoying watching basketball again. Like I hadn't in a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Postseason. Their preseason should be starting. At the end of this month. I think they usually start uh doing some preseason games. Yeah. They start next Monday. Uh Sixers are at the Nets on Monday at 7:30. So uh they have
they
four
have four preseason games, and then their their season opener is in Boston, but then their home
Boston
opener is
is with the
October
Bucks.
20th, and they're hosting the Bucks. Yeah,
Yeah. So
nice
we'll get to take a look at those. So basketball season's coming.
basketball. And then I mean,
Basketball.
yeah, like I said, I don't think I'm going to be watching the Flyers as much as the Sixers, just because they really haven't been great. But I do love the pace of
Yeah.
watching hockey because it's just you got to pay attention, which I really love. And the thing with, and I know we've talked about this, but like with baseball, it can be like really slow. You can be on your phone,
Yeah.
like in
Hmm.
between like at bats and stuff. Like
baseball's a sport, like, for me, like, it's better being there and watching it rather than trying to watch it at home. Because, like you said, you can get
Right.
distracted really quickly, where when you're there, you have a lot of things to keep you, focused on what's going on out there.
Right. Well, the Flyers home opener and actually their season opener is October 13th. So
Okay.
I'm I'm like 50-50 on if I want like the Phillies like to go that far to where I'm like I gotta pick and choose if I'm watching the Phillies or like obviously the Phillies in the postseason. I'm gonna watch them
We'll be getting 4
over like
teams to be watching because you got the Eagles going into the next couple months too. So it's like 4 teams you'd have to be, you know, picking and choosing from. And like I said, I mean, I usually don't watch the Flyers too much. Uh, but if they're kind of either on like a winning streak, or if I'm hearing them kind of be like, okay, well they've it seems like they're doing pretty good. If there's a night where I'm like, okay, well they're on, maybe I'll flip it on for a little bit. But
right.
I don't really follow them as much. But again, it's another sport for me that like I'd rather be there watching it
Sure.
than actually watching it on TV. But when I was in college, I think we talked about this again in our earlier episodes when we were first starting out. I was in college with a lot of you know hockey players, so I kind of got thrown into the game of hockey where they were talking about it a lot, they were watching it a lot, so I had like friends that talked to them and they were all into hockey as well, so I kind of got thrown into just watching it, so I ended up with you know talking about it and watching a lot more. I actually ended up getting into watching it a lot more, so I don't mind because I used to never really want to watch a full hockey game because I'm like, all right, you're just seeing people go up and down the rink and just doing this and that everything really didn't interest me. But after kind of being involved in it with a bunch of people, then you're like, okay, and you get people that are kind of be like, okay, well, this is what this guy's doing, this is what that guy's doing, blah blah blah. Then you're like, okay, now I understand it a little bit more. So
Right.
I don't mind
Right.
watching the Flyers when I can, but they're still not a team where I'm like, okay, if they're on or wait, are they playing tonight? Okay, I gotta like
Yeah, you're not going out of your way.
yeah, I'm not going out of my
Right.
way to watch it.
I just looked like I just skimmed through October for obviously we don't know the Phillies because we don't know like what their schedule is going to look like. But
Yeah,
when the Eagles are playing on the Sundays, now they play on the 16th. The Eagles play on the 16th against so they're hosting the Cowboys for Sunday Night Football here, and then their bye week is the following week. And then
okay,
we host the Steelers on the 30th. So that week of the 23rd, there's no Eagles playing. So yeah, there are
gotcha.
no Sixers or Flyers game on Sunday the 16th or Sunday the 30th. And I only looked at those two because um, like by then is when like both of those teams are in regular season. I didn't look for preseason because I'm like it's preseason if they're playing on
Yeah,
the Sunday. Like if they're playing on Sunday the 9th, either of those teams, I'm going to be like, it's preseason. I'm watching the Eagles play the Cardinals because that's going to be
of
like
course,
we just talked about. Like that's going to be a stronger game, um,
100%.
and a game that is going to be telling for us if we can blow through, um, if we can blow through the Cardinals and go to 5-0. Um, I mean that'll be pretty big. Then it's like okay, don't have your first loss against Dallas, which I don't think that would be the case. I mean, after that, I know we're kind of jumping all around here because we're being insane.
Hmm.
The Steelers game, I don't think that that's going to be. I honestly 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like I could see us going 10-0 and then eating our first loss to the Packers. Like because Aaron Rodgers, like you can't. Now, granted, the Packers are playing us in Philly,
Which
Yeah, I mean, dude,
I'd rather have the Packers come to us rather than us going out to Green Bay. But yeah,
these are I know that we've talked about this, but I'm like, these are all winnable games. Like I'm looking at our
the way that
schedule
we've
again,
been
and I'm like,
playing, with the way that we've been playing, I definitely feel with this schedule. I know I backed my guessing record again. I originally was saying like 12-5, and I'm like
mhm.
that's pushing it a little bit much. But after these 3 games, I'm like could be pretty
That's
possible this
actually
year.
that's
It
pretty
could be more
realistic,
possible.
honestly.
It
Yeah.
could be more
Do
realistic at this point.
Do you remember what I said? I don't remember. I think I said like 10-7 or 11-6 or something
We
like that.
both, you said 10-7. I'm like, yeah, I think 10-7 might be better. Uh, so no matter what, we're definitely winning 10 games this season. I mean, unless we
Yeah,
just go on a big spiral, but if we keep riding this wave, and uh, you know, I would think at this point, not that I can't change my thing now, but I think 12-5 is pretty possible with the way they're playing right now.
yeah. I mean, I can see it because I think the 5 losses you're talking about is just like we're not on our game. I mean, there's probably going to be a surprise like, oh, we shouldn't have lost that game, but we did anyway. Like that
Hmm.
almost always happens. Um,
Right.
I mean, we beat up the Commanders pretty bad in DC. So like I know when I was
A little
first
bit.
guessing, I was like, I always go 1-1 because I'm like I feel like we're very 50-50 with our
Yeah.
division
The last
teams.
couple of years, it's kind of been like 50-50 for us. Like, we'll at least, win one of the two bouts, but
Hmm.
we'll see. My thing is, we'll see what we do with the Cowboys, because I usually don't even care about the Commanders or the Giants, but
Yeah.
Giants are actually pretty good this year, so those games might be pretty good. But Commanders, not worrying about them this year. I'm always worrying about Dallas, but Dallas has kind of been up and down too. But the Giants
Well,
this year, since they got Saquon Barkley back, he's a beast of a running back.
so
So they'll be a
we play
good challenge too.
we play them uh at like we're at the Giants on December 11th, and then we host the Giants in our last regular season game on January 8th. So like we don't even see them for another 3 months,
Yeah.
basically.
So we'll see what they
So
are like at that point.
I think really it's we got to get through the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and then we host the Cowboys for Sunday Night Football, and then we have the bye week,
Then we have bye
and then we
week.
have
So yeah.
and
So
then and then we have the Steelers. So it's I don't
so
know, man.
going
These
into
are
the
all
bye, if we are 6-0, holy whoopsie,
yeah,
that would
seriously,
be awesome.
absolutely. I mean, it's pretty fun stuff, man. Like I know, like coming into the season, I was just like, yeah, we'll see what happens. But now that we're 3-0, it's like, well, like you said, who's going to hand us our first loss? And I'm like, what if it doesn't happen? I know that's not like incredibly
It's a little
realistic.
fantasy booking, but still, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I said, I'm looking at all these games. I'm like, there's no team that we're playing that's like, oh, we're dead in the water, not going to win that game, right?
Right.
Um, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, at least
Absolutely.
me having been like a pretty loyal Phillies fan for the season and seeing like them teeter like heading into the postseason, it's good that we have the Eagles that we can be excited about and be like, well, at least if the Phillies don't get the job done, or if they go into the postseason and they lose the first game, like the wild card round,
Hmm.
because the wild card round is just a 1 game win or lose and you're done. I'm pretty sure. I don't think that it's like a
Yeah,
series
I'm
best
not
of
sure,
five.
but I think the wild card games are just one and done. But when you get into the playoffs, they're a series.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I think. what I heard was, give me a second. Let me get back. I have so many tabs open between all the sports talk. Not mad about it, but
Nah.
I think your first and second seed uh, division leaders get the bye, right?
Right.
Um,
Yes. And I think it's almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but I think it's almost same thing with football. Like if you're the first seed, and I think it depends on your record. If you have home you get the buy and home field advantage too.
yeah. So the way that they do it in football is the first two seeds get the bye
Hmm.
and the home field advantage, and then they do seeds 3 and 6 face off, and then they do seeds 4 and 5 face off. In
Hmm.
baseball, in baseball, it's seeds 3 and 4 face off, and then seeds 5 and 6 face off. So
Gotcha.
the thing that's interesting and is like the Mets and the Braves, and again, once this is published, these numbers are going to change, right? Like it's
Uh-huh.
11, almost 11:45 p.m. on Tuesday, September 27th. But the record for the Braves is 97-58, and the record for the Mets, who are in the wild card team, is 97-58. Like they have a tied record right now. Um, so they've been jumping, like they've been going back and forth between being like the uh, National League East division leaders.
Yeah.
Like they're switching in and out of the wild card and division leaders. So I don't know. Like that they both teams have clinched a playoff berth. Like they're both in. Like they're good for the postseason. So right now they're just fighting to be the division leaders, which means whoever wins the division outright, they'll get that second seed and that bye for the first
Yeah.
round. And
Hmm.
then the St. Louis Cardinals are the third seed, and they're going to stay the third seed. It looks like they're either going to play whoever doesn't get that second seed by, whether it's the Mets or the Braves, is who St. Louis is going to play. And then as of right now, the Phillies are going to play the Padres, San Diego, for that wild card
Gotcha.
round one. And then I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm guessing if we're sixth seed and if we beat the Padres, I would imagine that we would have to face the Dodgers, who would be the first seed, and then
Hmm.
um,
I keep hearing the Mets might be, but again, numbers might change, and teams might go up and down, so it might be a little different
there's
at that
I
point.
don't I don't know the schematics of how the postseason arrangement goes, or if it's like a matter of
Same.
like you know what is it? Runs scored and runs allowed. It's like points forced and
Hmm.
points allowed in football. Like I know that makes a
Yeah,
difference.
like it just starts going down to like your depending if there's like a tie, then it can go into like your division record. Who has a better division record that gets the better person in there. So it just starts going into your stats of like who has better stats and stuff.
Right,
So if
right.
there's something to really resolve from it.
Yeah, and it's so weird to think like this is gonna come out on September 30th, so Saturday being October 1st, like we're already going into October baseball, and like everything's going to change over the course of the next few days. So it's like
Yeah,
everything that we're talking about now, once this gets published, is like it's all going to move like different.
it'll be interesting, and we'll be here to
And
talk about it.
and we'll be here to share how we feel about it. Okay. Okay.
Okay. But
My goodness.
with that, why don't we? I mean, unless you got anything else to kind of say maybe we can wrap this up
Yeah,
here, since we kind of have some things to look forward to, and maybe we can do another recap in our next episode or two. Is there anything else you want to kind of share before we sign off?
everyone, thanks for listening to us ramble about our somewhat knowledge of sports. Look, we're casual fans, man, and
Yeah,
that's I've
we are
always said,
definitely
like,
more casual and like, yeah, with everything. Yeah.
if you are like a diehard sports fan, obviously our conversation is going to be like not for you. Um, I
Very
think,
basic. Like, we don't go into
yeah,
stats. We don't go into like back things. We're just like, okay, this team looks good. We'll see what this thing goes into. We're not into like, well, if you look how these stats are going, like we don't really break that. We don't have too much breakdowns into our predictions. It's more just like, who do we feel has the better chances of winning?
yeah. I don't know,
So, yeah,
how tall people are, what everyone weighs, what college that they played for. I'm like, I don't even care. I don't care on that level.
yeah,
So I mean, aside from like the casual sports talk, um, I feel like there's important stuff happening in wrestling, but it's like very building up type stuff, because every fall it's just like they got to get through football season and then get us to the Rumble and then get us to
yeah.
Mania season, right? So, I mean, I think that the bloodline stuff with Roman is interesting. I love what they're doing with Sammy. Um, it's nice to
Yeah.
see that they have
Yeah. I
Solo
think
up.
it's a new, fresh thing to kind of keep it going. So it's good.
They they have Paul Heyman back now. He's back on TV again, so it's cool. I don't
Hmm.
I don't hate the Logan Paul match. Like, I know that that's because he's got a huge following. Like, that's why they're doing it, and they're like, we
And
know that
yeah,
Roman's not
it's
losing
definitely
those
a
belts
business
until
thing.
Mania. So yeah, Roman
No.
not losing those belts until Mania. I'm like,
Yeah, I
I don't
think it'll
care.
definitely be a good match. I mean, it's definitely a business thing.
Right? It's more like, I mean, Logan Paul has a real chance to be like, okay, I'm going against their like number one guy. Like, if you ever wanted to make a name for yourself,
Hmm.
granted, he already has. Um, really surprised everyone in the and I did I send you the thing somebody said if they do Roman versus Bad Bunny at the Rumble, I'm not watching WWE anymore. I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up.
Whoopsie.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
Come
you
on,
are.
you'll be like, I hate Bad Bunny.
Yeah. And then you're gonna tune in to
We all
watch the
say
match.
that.
Just
Like, I'm not watching WWE anymore. Then the next week, you're like,
you're like, wow, Raw's trash again.
out of
Whoopsie.
here.
Yeah, seriously.
Whoopsie.
Shut
Whoopsie.
up. I mean, yeah, I I really think that WWE TV has been fantastic since Vince is gone. And it's like we all were like, what's it gonna be like once he's out? And now that he's out, it's like I kind of expected it to not be okay, but it's like everyone was like, no, he was awful. He was, you know, what is it, like checked out, or um, he just aged out. Basically, he didn't know how to keep up
Mhm.
with,
He was
you
playing his
know,
own game. He really didn't want to change with the times. He was just sticking to what he knew and expecting the audience to kind of just flow with what he was doing. And,
right.
I think with Triple H and everything going on, I mean, I can't say it's been like, from what I've been watching, it's not like 100% change, but there's like little bits that you can tell that have been like improved and, changing throughout the last couple months. So, and I think the biggest thing that's going to be, hopefully, a big significant uh notification of how much this thing has changed is the road to WrestleMania this year. how they can,
Yes.
really get more people into, you know, not even just watching Mania, but how they're going to start making all these storylines after the Rumble and making people want to watch WrestleMania this year. Because I think even though we've had a lot of good Manias, I think what we say, I think last year's was pretty good, I'd say. But I think the stories building up to it were like mediocre. I mean, you were still going to watch it because it's WrestleMania, but it was like not every and not every match you're never going to want to be full. You're not going to be fully interested in every single match, but you want to be interested in a good amount of the matches on the card. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Triple H and all the new creative is going to, uh, you know, go with, the Rumble and who's going to win the Rumble, uh and what are the bigger storylines they're going to be. And again, knowing that right now it's, fall WWE typical, they're just getting through the, like Jim said, they're getting through the, you know NFL Monday nights. And once that kind of starts going down, then we get into the Rumble. So, and we'll definitely give our predictions for Rumble as they come. And I think last year we did a whole, road to WrestleMania thing. So we'll definitely get back into our road to WrestleMania talks and everything too.
Yep. Yep. And I think we're good right there, man. I'm excited because our next um recording, once this gets published, will be tomorrow, right?
Yes, we will be taping for our 40th episode. I can't believe it's already been 40. That we're
It's
thinking
wild, man.
40. So, and we have another special thing coming at the end of the month. Don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's going to be fun. We're still in the works of working everything out, but we're going to have something special for you guys at the end of next month. So we'll have a live in-person episode, and then we're going to have another cool thing coming for you guys at the end of the month. So if you haven't yet, make sure you guys are subscribed to us on YouTube. All the video podcast episodes are on YouTube and on Spotify. And if you are not a video podcast person, you can listen to it on, Apple Podcasts or any of the other audio form, podcast stations. But knowing that we are a legit video podcast, the best bet is being able to see, because a lot of the things we don't usually are a lot of things we do are more formatted towards being a video podcast. So you're going to get the best benefit by watching the videos instead of just watching the audios. So make sure you subscribe to us. Links are all in the description. My friend, always a pleasure talking to you. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Love you, brother.
All right, love you, bro. Cheers, man. Until next time.
Cheers.
Clinkety clank.
Clinkety
Love you,
clank. Clank, 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 clank.
bro.